So for this video, we're going to be looking at finding slope from a graph with points. So this is a fairly simple method to learn. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at this method that's called rise over run. So what we're looking at for rise over run is the change in y over the change in x. And remember that the y-axis is the vertical axis that goes up and down, and the x-axis is the horizontal axis that goes from left to right. So what we're doing is we're actually looking at the number of spaces that occur between 2 points. So in this particular graph, we're going to first look at rise. And rise is how many spaces up or down. If you're going up to the next point, then it's going to be a positive slope. And if you're going down to the next point, you're going to be looking at a negative slope. For this particular one, we're going up from the left point to the right point, which is usually how you read a graph. Up from the left to the right, that's going to be a positive. So let's go ahead and count our spaces. So going from the first point, we go up one space to match to the line next to it. So we have up, and that's actually going to be our rise, which is 1. And then we go over, we're going to count 1, 2 spaces. So that would be our run. So our rise over run, or our slope, is 1 over 2. And what that means is that whenever we go up 1 and over 2, we should hit another point on the graph. So that would put our next point right there. So looking at another problem, we can actually see very similar. In this case, we're looking at a negative slope because our line goes down from the left point to the right point. So looking at this, we'll repeat our rise over run. And we will just count spaces again. That's all we need to do. This time we're going to count down to the next point. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. So since we went down, our rise is actually going to be a negative 4. And then we're going to go over 1, 2 spaces. So that's a positive 2. Now we can reduce this to make it simpler by dividing 2 from a negative 4. And if we divide negative 4 by 2, we get a negative 2. All right, so let's look at another problem. So this one has a little bit more of space between the 2 points, and that's okay. You get that sometimes. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a lot more space. And actually, in terms of spaces like these, usually we can reduce it down to something simpler. And I'll show you how that'll work. All right, so to begin with, we're going to go and write down our rise over run so we don't forget it. And now we are going to just go ahead and count spaces. So we're going to go up because this is a positive slope. So from our first point to our next point, it goes up. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces all the way up to that other line. And then from there, we are going to count over to our next point. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces to reach that other point. So then our rise over run, or our slope, is 10 over 5. And you probably guessed we can reduce that. And the way we do that is we just divide 10 by 5, and we will get a positive 2. So our slope is 2. And we can look at that by looking at the fact that if we go up from that bottom point, if we go up 2 and over 1, that'll give us a point right directly on our line. And it's the same thing. You can keep doing that. You can go up 2 over 1, and you find another point on the line. And every time you do that, you should fall on another point on the line. So it's a fairly simple method for doing that. Now let's take a look at 3 more problems. And what I would like for you to do is before I go through the problem, which I'm going to do here in a second, before I do that, I would like for you to pause this and try it on your own. And then you can start playing it again, and you can go right through it with me, just to check your work. So let's look at rise over run. We're going to go, because this is a downward slope from the first point to the second one, this is going to be, as you guessed, a negative slope. So let's take a look at that. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 down. So that's a negative 4. And 1 over. So that is a negative 4 over 1, which we can just simply write as negative 4, because any number over a 1 is that number. So if it was 6 over 1, it would be 6. If it was 2 over 1, it'd be 2. In this case, it's a negative 4. So if you got that right, great job. Let's go on to the next one. So taking a look at this next graph, we're going to see that we've got, another big space here. So we might be doing some reducing, but that really depends on the numbers that we get. We're going to go ahead and do rise over run. So we are actually going to go up here, because from the left to the right, it is going at an upward angle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points up. So we have a rise of 6, and 1, 2, 3 over. So we've got a rise over run of 6 over 3. And as you've guessed, we can reduce that just by simply dividing out the numbers. So 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. So again, if you go up 2 and over 1, you're going to hit another point on the line. Up 2 over 1, you'll hit another point on the line. And you can just keep doing that all the way through, and that'll just kind of prove that that is your slope, because that's what we're looking for, is, what rate of change is going on throughout this line. All right, so let's look at the last one. And like I said, you can pause it, work out the problem yourself, and let me know if you were right. So let's look again at rise over run. Please excuse my very sloppy handwriting. So again, we're just counting, and since this one is going at a downward slope from the first point to the second point, we're actually going to have a negative slope. So let's look first at going down. So we go 1, 2. So we have a negative 2 for our rise, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for our run. So our rise over run is negative 2 over 4, and we can reduce that down. So we're going to look for a number that goes into both of these evenly, and that would just be 2. So let's divide negative 2 by 2, and we get a negative 1. And then we have 4 divided by 2, and that is just a 2. So that means next time we can go down 1 and over 2 points, and we'll actually hit a point on the line. And really, for finding slope from a graph, that's all there is to it. In the next video, we will look at finding a slope from two ordered pairs. I hope that helped, and let me know if you need more help.